Welcome back to the channel. I want to show you guys a cool chart, and this is really referencing some of what Lyn Alden has mentioned multiple times herself with correlating this particular chart with Bitcoin and crypto bull runs and bear runs and bear markets. And I want to show this to you guys. I think it's useful, at least I found it useful in creating an explanation for why crypto price goes down and why it goes up. And I want to talk about a common narrative and this less common narrative that has a relatively strong correlation to price. And it's something that I'm just keeping in the back of my head when I'm trying to predict what's going to happen in the future. When will we have the next bull run? And, how high will it go and some things like that. So let's look at this. So this is the United States Purchasing Managers Index. And this is basically just showing the Purchasing Managers Index is basically a survey sent to businesses. It asks specific questions, but it's basically asking them, is business good or business bad? And it puts it on a range, puts the results on a range from 0 to 100. And I think that there's some pretty interesting takeaways from this. At least I find it interesting. I want to share this with you guys. So if we draw, so this is basically the last 10 years. That's what we're looking at here. And if we draw in the Bitcoin halvenings on this chart, I think you see something very interesting. There was a Bitcoin halvening in 2012, 2016, and 2020. And you can kind of see that the halvenings correlate with a rise in business times being good, and the dips actually correlate with business times being bad. And I think this is very interesting. I can show you guys a Bitcoin halvening chart, and I can explain what that is for people that may not know. So here is the chart of Bitcoin over time, and you can see these lines here, right here, here, and here, showing when the halvening happens. Of course, the halvening of Bitcoin is when the inflation rate of Bitcoin gets cut in half. The inflation is given to the miners, the companies and individuals that are mining Bitcoin. The amount that they gets cut in half at every single one of these halvening events. And people have noticed that when the halvening happens, it tends to be correlated with a price increase in Bitcoin. And the argument is basically the explanation for why the halvening is creating a bull run is because a lot of the sell pressure, arguably, for Bitcoin comes from the miners. And if the miners have less Bitcoin because they're basically having half as much Bitcoin every time there is a halvening, there's half as much sell pressure from that particular group of individuals wanting to sell. And that has been a very common narrative in the history of Bitcoin. I believe everyone's looking to the next halvening as an explanation and a reason to think the price is going to go up. And I think there is reason to weight that as a good explanation. I think it's a good explanation, in my opinion, for why price has risen. Although I think the significance of the Bitcoin halvening is less every time, because as the percentage paid to miners in the beginning was many times larger than it is now. I think we're at 1 point something percent, and we're going to cut that 1 point something percent in half again. That is a smaller percentage. It's going to have a smaller impact on the price this time. It's basically going to have half as much impact on the price, arguably, this time as it has the time before that, and the time before that, and the time before that. So for me, weighting the Bitcoin halvening, I think should be, in my opinion, it is less meaningful than it has in the past, because it's going to likely affect price less than it has in the past. But I do feel like this other chart being an explanation, this Purchasing Managers Index, PMI, also sometimes called ISM, is really interesting to look at as well. And I might weight this in my explanation of if crypto is going to have a bull run or not. as there's a strong correlation with crypto bull and bear markets with our own U.S. economy. This is just specifically to the U.S. economy, with the own U.S. economy going up and down. And it's something that I think just recognizing that bull runs in the past have correlated with the economy. The economy, I think it's a good reason to think that the U.S. economy is going to have an impact on crypto itself. And if you guys think, for example, that the Bitcoin halving is again going to correlate with an expanding economy, with times being good, if instead of going down like we are, we're going to have bottomed by 2024, when the next halving is, and we will then start going up again with our economy expanding, then maybe we'll have a good bull run. Everything will be great, and it will correlate again with the Bitcoin halving. But this is just something that I find interesting, and I'm trying to have good explanations myself for why I think certain things will happen over other things. And I wanted to share this with you guys. Anyway, short video. Hope this was helpful to you. Talk to you in the next one.